Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, people. Welcome to our asynchronous online teaching. So let's go to the point and let's call our famous lecturer, Sir Isaac Newton. So Sir Isaac Newton is on top of a wall with his nice wig, and he is looking down because he is looking to something which he cannot resist. He is looking at something which is over his powers of physics. He's looking at a very nice apple. Delicious and beautiful apples. And Sir Isaac Newton has nothing else but to jump and get the most beautiful apple in the history of the apples. So how is he going to do that? Well, Sir Isaac Newton is not stupid, as you know, and he has special tricks. And his special trick, one of them, is called the Newton's second law of motion. Sum of all the forces equal mass times acceleration. And then Sir Isaac Newton is thinking what to do with this formula, and he actually say, okay, mass dv dt, that's the acceleration is the derivative of velocity with respect to time. I can put this mass inside, right? And then I have an equation which is the change of p with time, right? Sometimes we call the force the net force, the sum of all the forces, and the increment, the change on linear momentum, delta p, divided by the times on the change on time, the time that it takes from jumping from this wall to the floor, a wall which is quite tall, like 3 meters. So we can deduce what is the velocity for a free body falling. And here we have that p final minus p initial divided by t final minus t initial, right? So obviously this is 0 and this is also 0. So this will be mv final divided by t final, right? So this is what Sir Isaac Newton is thinking while he's looking down to get his delicious apple. So then he applies these laws, the second law of motion, and he just jumps to get his apple, right? He has to be careful. With one hand he's holding his wig so it doesn't fall down, and with the other hand he is making some equilibrium motion. And as he reached the floor, this is very important to understand, he bent his legs slightly, right? He bent his legs slightly for a particular reason that we're going to explain right now. And as he hit the floor with bending legs, he just rolled over the floor like Cristiano Ronaldo will do with Real Madrid, right? Trying to get a penalty, but not only for that. So what is the purpose of doing the Cristiano Ronaldo thing? So Sir Isaac Newton, obviously, he understands, let's go to this formula, the net force, which is the force of impact, is equal mass times velocity final divided by t final, right? This equation has all the information that we need. So what this Sir Isaac Newton doing by flexing his legs, right, is protecting his knees of the sudden impact on the floor by increasing the time of impact, right? If we increase the time of impact, we reduce the net force or the force of impact, right? So here is what is he doing? What is he doing is just bending the knees, so bending the legs so he doesn't get, he increased the time of impact and roll over the floor, so he keeps increasing the time of impact, reaching a net force which is much smaller and protecting his knees from getting hurt. So once Sir Isaac Newton is on the floor, he's enjoying his beautiful apple, right? So he's basically eating this juicy apple. He doesn't realize there's a little worm there, like always, and he is enjoying the apple very much. But there's a little problem here. Sir Isaac Newton doesn't realize that this apple actually is not his to take, but it belongs to someone, right? So finally, Sir Isaac Newton is enjoying his apple, is getting a bite, he is having so much fun. However, the situation gets a little bit complicated because this apple belongs to this fellow who is not very impressed with the situation. So he's not impressed with the situation and he is very upset. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. He is very upset and he wants a little bit of revenge because Sir Isaac Newton is eating his apple, right? So the situation becomes a little bit ugly, and this fellow, well, let's just draw this fellow. I'm talking a lot about this fellow, but he's quite strong, right? So the apple is somewhere there, and what happened is, what I want to tell you is that this fellow actually suddenly punches with Sir Isaac Newton very strongly on his face. But in this motion, Sir Isaac Newton is not still, and what he does is he moves his head, he pulls back for the hit again to take a longer time, right? So Sir Isaac Newton is pulling his body back as the only and the unique Muhammad Ali will do. That was his typical defense strategy, right? He pulls himself back, so the time F net equal mvf divided by t final, which is the t final now is the time it takes to hit Sir Isaac Newton. By increasing again the time, by pulling back, the net force goes down again and the punch is not that strong. Obviously, Sir Isaac Newton is not very happy with this punch, and quickly he reacts like a perfect kung fu fighter as he is, and Sir Isaac Newton attacks without any prejudice, attacks the guy who tried to take the apple. It was his apple in the first place, but Sir Isaac Newton didn't care, so he just jumped and hit the poor guy. He was not happy with this punch, and he just fell on the floor very badly. And he fell on the floor because, again, Sir Isaac Newton used that the net force is equal, the force of impact is equal to mvf, the velocity of the kick, but he did the Bruce Lee thing, right? The Bruce Lee thing was to take this time of impact very, very short. So the force each is much, much greater, right? So in this way, he managed to get this guy down and defended himself. And we can see right here the three cases that we have gone through. First, Sir Isaac Newton jumps from the wall. He just bends his knees, roll over like Cristiano Ronaldo. Then the apple is not his. The guy gets very upset. This fellow here, he punches him and he pulls back. Again, increasing the time of impact, reducing the impact force. And then Sir Isaac Newton gets very upset finally, and he goes to Bruce Lee and he does the fast kick on the face, which increases the impact force. And that, I hope, with these stories of Cristiano Ronaldo, Muhammad Ali, and Bruce Lee, you have understand the sentence, the famous sentence of float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Okay, welcome to Asynchronous Online Teaching. Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon, everything.